and a 1, and a 2, and 1, 2, 3, go! Welcome everybody to Decked Out 2. I am Fairy Flora, and I am so very excited to finally be hosting this event, and thank everyone for joining me and making this event even more fun than it was going to be. I absolutely can't wait. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now, I know there are some people who have never even seen Decked Out. There are some people, like me, who have watched lots of streams and lots of videos and have a pretty good grasp about what Decked Out is and how to play. So today, what I'm going to do is just give a brief overview of how to play and really the most important things, what changed compared to how the Hermits played and how we will be playing. So let's get into it. So what you see behind me is going to be our scoreboard. It is basically identical to the ones that the Hermits use, for those of you that watched. I did leave the Hermit scoreboard simply because I thought it would be fun to kind of compare when we are all done to see how the scores lined up. I'm very excited for this. It's going to be so much fun. We're going to be using the same system that Tango used, which is snow layers represent your points. Now, the points did change a little bit, but we'll get into that in a minute. I want to just kind of go over some of the basics here first. So right here, as you walk in, going over towards the scoreboard, you will see this little guy. Here you'll find your starter decks, and you'll find all of the rules. Now, all of these rules can be found in the Discord as well, but in case you forget, this is where you can find them. Your point values, how points are tallied, trophies, all those goodies. And then right next to this, for those of you that are familiar, you may know this room. This room is simply a way for you to push buttons or read a book and figure out what do these things do. So, for instance, if a coin drops in the dungeon, you'll hear this. If a frost ember drops, you'll hear this. Pretty simple. And this will be here throughout the entire tournament. Now on to something that is a bit the same, but also has some changes. That is the That is the crown shop. Now the crown shop, even Tango admitted, wasn't the best. It didn't function. Not many people actually used it other than to buy additional shards for entry into the dungeon. Now, that brings us to our first kind of big change. You can no more purchasing shards of any kind. You will not be able to get them out of here. You're not going to be able to get them out of a mystery box. Nothing. I chose to do this because if you can buy shards, it kind of negates the whole purpose of the catch-up mechanic, because people in first place obviously have lots of crowns, so they could just buy their way back in to having just as many shards as those that didn't score as well. So it just seemed the fairest thing to do. Another slight change, we do have the blood of your enemies is in here for a little bit of a food boost if you decide to bring that in. And of course, anything you buy from this shop can be carried into the dungeon with you, no penalty. All 4 ethereal cards are now for sale here, whereas before there were only 3. You can, of course, still purchase your splash potion of slowness to maybe get the edge on those nasty Ravengers. But something that's a little bit more fun is this little guy. Now, I understand they look like Capri Suns. This is just my texture pack. These are potions. Just make sure that you're paying attention to what you're buying, because some of these potions may not just affect you. So keep that in mind. And of course, you can still re-roll the shop if it's available and if you decide to. Now, one last thing before we get into the big changes is if you happen to forget to set your spawn inside and you have to break your way back in. I know it's embarrassing, but we all have to do it sometimes. That's where the pick of shame is going to come in handy. And if it does, no big deal. Just grab it, then place it back in the ice when you're done. Easy peasy. This is the barrel that you will put your frozen shard to start entry into the dungeon. Once you are inside this lovely room, you will then place all of your items, if you have any, in these shulkers. You shouldn't have many. Make sure to set your spawn at the bed here. And don't worry about these. These only come into play when you are done with the dungeon run. This berry bush is here so that you can jump up and kind of damage yourself a little bit and eat a pork chop to max out your saturation and food bar before delving into the dungeon. This door will be open automatically when you put your key in, but obviously this is just for demonstration purposes. When you're in this room, you simply select whatever difficulty you want. Doesn't matter whatever you feel comfortable going on. Place your deck shulker against the redstone lamp right here. Wait a few seconds. It does take some time. You will hear an audio cue to let you know, but then a minecart will appear here. Hop in, push the button, and into the dungeon you go. Once in the dungeon, you will receive a compass and a map. Now the map displays all of this right here. The frost embers and treasure both display how many of each you have in the queue that are about to be dispensed into the dungeon. And the dungeon does know what level to put them on. So if you're on level 2, it's not going to dispense them down on level 3 or level 1. Your hazard and clank block is a similar situation where it shows how much you have in the bank, how much block you have ready in the event that you need it, as well as a nifty card display down here, just so you know how many cards you have left and if you might want to get out of the dungeon sooner than later. Now, bringing up that map does bring us to our next kind of housekeeping point. In the dungeon, I do ask that no use of F3B, so no hitboxes, no using a mini-map, and of course, no using Tweakeroo to simply fly around and do and find or see whatever you want to do. That's just cheating. Let's keep it fair. Now, upon entering Deep Frost Citadel, you may notice, if you're familiar with Decked Out, and if not, you will notice these right here in the center going around both sides. Of course, we kept the Hermit's little alcoves intact because why wouldn't we? It's just beautiful nostalgia, and some of them are just, oh, they're just too pretty to take down. So instead, we have these here. These spots right here, you will just grab your deck, come over, claim any one you want. It doesn't matter, of course, as long as it's not claimed already. You'll simply edit your sign. And then that board's yours. At the end of each week or run, however you want to do it, this is where you're going to turn in your stage tokens. Now, the stage tokens are what give you your points to determine the weekly winners. Now, the stage tokens are something you're not going to have to really worry about. They're going to dispense automatically for you when you are done with your successful run. Now, that is key. You will only receive a stage token if you complete your run successfully. This means going in, getting an artifact, and getting out with it. If you leave without an artifact, that is counted as a loss, the same as if you die. So, just make sure you get your artifact. Now, stage tokens. They're pretty simple. They will be waiting with your shulker deck when you win the dungeon. You, of course, have 5 different tokens depending on which difficulty you win on. You've got your easy, medium, hard, deadly, and deep frost. I don't know why they're out of order. And then when you're done, simply place them in your shulker just like so. And then this is how I will determine how many points you received that week to determine that week's stage winner. I'm so excited. Okay, now on to probably one of the bigger changes. Shards. In the original Decked Out, you could carry over your shards as long as you wanted, really. If you never wanted to run and save up 30 shards to run in 1 week, well, you could do that. Not here. Again, saving up shards kind of negates the entire catch-up mechanic, as it would allow somebody that might be a little cheeky to simply skip a week or two until the point values get higher and then bust out a bunch of runs and just blow everyone away in the scoreboard. That's not very sportsmanlike. So, at the end of each week, you will also turn in any excess shards into your stage box. These shards will not be refunded. These shards will not be counted as a bonus shards towards the following week. So if you don't use them, well, then you just don't use them. No big deal. It just means you may not get as many points as you could have. That's the only downside to not using them. And then finally, one of the smaller quality of life changes that we added is simply the status. This is a mod that you will find in the Discord, a link to it, but using the in-game UI, you can simply set your status to let people know, yes, I'm streaming, don't bother me, I'm open, not available at the moment, etc. This just helps us because we will be using simple voice chat, and out of respect for those with it, we don't want any family-friendly, non-family-friendly crossovers to accidentally happen. So just be respectful, and if you see somebody with the streaming icon on, just make sure to kind of filter yourself if necessary. Now, on to one of the more exciting things. You may be wondering, this is a pretty big flat wall simply for a turn-in shulker. Well, that is because we will be playing Decked Out Bingo. The artifacts will have a purpose. They are not just for fun, I promise. But the best part about the bingo is if you get a bingo, this is simply same rules as any other bingo, going diagonal, straight down, straight across. Simple. If you get a bingo, there are up to 3 random cards that even I don't know who they are. They are in a completely random machine that I simply push a button and that's the card you get. Hopefully it's one that you can put in your deck, because if it's a duplicate that you've already maxed out, well, that sucks. But this is a way you might be able to get a little bit of an edge, get that rare card a little earlier than you thought. Maybe get that rare card that's been escaping you in the shop for run after run. So, good luck. I really, really can't wait to see how these boards fill up. In each barrel here, you will find your item frames for your board. Everybody will be given a board. It's in the Discord. You can just download the image. And then your scaffolding of choice, let the wars begin, to then, of course, place them. Pretty simple. Now, on to the moment you've all been waiting for. Fairy, what happens if I win? Do I get anything? Is it just bragging rights? Is it like an in-game crown, similar to how MCC does it? Well, while that would be cool, I don't know how to make those. But what I can do is the winner of Decked Out. This means after 10 weeks, The overall score winners, similar to how Mr. Etho did right here, you're not going to get a gold card. You're not going to get a silver or bronze card. No, 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 no. You will be receiving a canvas print of the decked out desk mat art for the game. I'll admit, I am going to be trying very hard to get this myself because it's just too good. I really was hoping Tango was going to release a printed version rather than a desk mat, but he didn't. So here it is. Now, according to the site, it can ship internationally, so it shouldn't be a problem for those of us that are international players. It may just take a little longer to get to you. But we'll deal with that when we know who the winner is. And then one final thing that you may have noticed briefly when I showed them. Your deck shulkers are all in these barrels next to the rulebook, and in each one I did provide some food. That way, hopefully, nobody starves to death, because that's not a fun way to end Decked Out, is it? Now, if you do die, there is a spawn spot right here. No big deal. You can just set your spawn here, and in the event you forget to set your spawn or you die to some shenanigans, it's just a short walk back. However, if you do forget to set your spawn in both locations, world spawn is simply back out there at the portal. So it's not that bad if you do have to run, but we will still make fun of you. Now, if anybody has any additional questions, concerns, or just something they need clarified, please feel free to put them in Discord or direct message me, however you feel comfortable, and I'll be happy to answer. It's no big deal. Ravagers getting stuck should not be an issue. We fixed it because we're just that good. So thank you all so much for joining me in this absolutely amazing, epic game that Tango Tech designed for all of us to play, and I cannot wait to see how the scoring ends up. But before I go, I do have to give out a huge thank you to Salandora, the Beerarchy, Captain Britain, and Thalamin. Thank you all so much. Without you, this game would not be as polished or anything that it is now. I don't even know if I would have been able to make this happen, let alone have it run as smoothly and nicely as it does. So thank you all so much for helping me fix the little bugs and playtest. So without further ado, welcome to Decked Out. Good luck, and let the Ravagers munch.